Here on the Colour of Country Life, FlowFM, we've got Kathryn Taffs on the line. She's from the Department of Planning and Environment, Water Science Division. Kathryn, thanks so much for being available to talk with us.
It's a pleasure, Ricky.
We took great interest in this colorised map that came out from one of the recent water news bulletins. Look, just explain first of all this river condition index that's relevant to the whole Murray-Darling Basin and why this project's been underway.
Thanks, Ricky. Yeah, this river condition index is actually across all of New South Wales, so the coastal part as well as the Murray-Darling Basin, although I know your listeners are very interested in that Murray-Darling Basin area, particularly the southern catchment. So what we have recently done is released a new version of the River Condition Index, and this time we've made it an interactive map that is available through the department's website, so all of the public can access it. And what it is, it's a calculation of the health of New South Wales rivers. But I need to be clear that this is average conditions over the last decade. So it's not going to reflect the recent floods that we've experienced. And in fact, the period of time that we've calculated it over includes a fairly severe drought as well as flood conditions. So the River Condition Index looks at 6 different components that affect a river's health. And that's the land use and the catchment, the vegetation beside the river, how stable the riverbank is, the water quality, what animals are living in that section of the river, as well as what stress the river is under due to extraction. So we combine those all together using a modelling and mathematical approach and then use a traffic light system to indicate whether the river system is quite healthy, so a green colour, or whether it's in poor condition, so it's under quite a bit of stress and in poor health.
Yeah, and looking at the broader map where I gather you've sort of combined those 6 attributes into a general traffic light indication, and you're quite right, it does cover all the rivers in New South Wales, but whilst there are little patches of red on the coastal rivers, there's quite a lot of red in terms of the condition, I guess, of the western side of the Great Dividing Range and those catchments. You know, what does that mean for the broader Murray-Darling Basin?
If we zoom in and have a look at those red areas, and in fact this map is quite interactive, so when you go into it, it will give you the River Condition Index, so the overall calculation, but you can also click on the layers and look at those individual components that make up the overall river condition as well. And particularly in that Murray-Murrumbidgee area, a lot of the red is because of the catchment land uses and riparian vegetation. So in essence, there's not a lot of vegetation in some of those areas adjacent to the river system, so buffering and filtering for water quality. And that's why they've come up as being in generally poor health. So what we need to do is use this as a strategic tool to improve water management. And that might be things like prioritising areas for remediation, targeting different strategies to areas that will benefit the most for things like water quality improvement, as well as improving habitat for the animals that live in there, and just generally building the resilience of those river systems.
And I noticed with a lot of our listeners being farmers, there's a lot of farming area there that would be affected by those, I guess, land clearing in the past, or is there flooding and other reasons why that erosion has happened?
Certainly vegetation clearance in the past, and a lot is being done in that area to improve river health. So New South Wales has the regional water strategies that are being developed, and they use new climate data, and the department is developing strategies around the current condition and climate change impacts to prioritise things like water supply options such as recycled water and managed aquifer recharge, improving water efficiency, investigating how we can improve water quality, as well as developing catchment recovery programs. So there's quite a bit in place, and that will certainly be implemented in the next 5 to 10 years, that hopefully we will then see an improvement in those river systems.
And with that data and the mapping, as you say, that doesn't include recent flooding events without you've got to go and dive deeply into the data. But I imagine some of those would generally have improved because of the recent flooding events?
Yeah, indeed. While the actual event of a flood can be very severe and affect people negatively, it also brings a lot of nutrients onto the floodplains. We have a lot of water in those systems. We're doing some tracking of fish in the Murray-Darling Basin, and they're dispersing quite widely at the moment. So that will recolonise areas and trigger breeding events. Of course, right at the moment and in the last few weeks, we have had some concerns with water quality because we've had so much organic material in those river systems that have affected the dissolved oxygen levels. So that has put some stress on the river systems, but in the next 2 to 3 years, we should see some natural regeneration as a result of those floods.
And where can people go to, like you've mentioned, they can look and drill in some detail into these maps? Where can they access them online?
Yeah, if they search the Department of Planning and Environment River Condition Index, it should take you straight to the Water Science website, and from there you can click on the interactive map and you can zoom in, zoom out, choose what layer you want to look at, and learn a lot more about the health of our river systems in New South Wales.
Kathryn Taffs is the Manager of Water Science at the Department of Planning and Environment. Thank you so much for joining us on Flow today.
Thank you, Ricky.